Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our show theme today is how to beat the holiday blues and overeating. And let me introduce to you our guest here in the studio and also our cast members on Skype. So our guest today is Susan Pierre-George, and she's a registered nutritionist, and she's joining us right from our backyard, Denver, Colorado. Welcome.
Nice to be here, Steve. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
It's nice to have you, and a happy holidays to you as well. And our cast members on Skype, from the left to the right, from the left is Alicia Kramer. She is our self-growth and health cast member, and she's joining us from Wisconsin. Welcome to the show, Alicia.
Thank you. I love being here. Thank you.
We love you. We love you to be here. And next to Alicia, in the middle actually, is James McPartland, and he is our lead health and wellness cast member, and he's joining us from Los Angeles. Welcome to the show.
Steve, I'm joining you from the gingerbread house in Los Angeles, California today.
All right, great, fantastic. And next to James is Nina Andiver de Rosa. She's a self-growth and also our health cast member, and she's joining us from the beautiful Hollywood Hills. Welcome to the show, Nina.
The tinsel town of Hollywood, Hollywood Hills, with all the lights up, it's fabulous.
Absolutely.
Good to be with you.
Absolutely fantastic. So here's how the show is going to go today. We're going to first talk a little bit about, just touch on, for the people that are maybe tuning in for the very first time, you know, what this show is all about. And then we'll talk about, in our second segment, what are the issues and some of the problems with people having the blues and overeating during the holidays. And then in our last segment, we're going to talk about what are the potential solutions and maybe some modalities that any of you have used in the past for your clients or even for yourself that has worked to deal with these issues and problems. So let's begin with, you know, helping our viewers that are tuning in for the first time. What this show is really all about is about showing our viewers what consciousness is, like what does it look like and what does it feel like. Because I believe that for hundreds and thousands of years we have talked about consciousness. There are a lot of experts out there, a lot of masters that know how to talk about this very effectively. Matter of fact, they are masters at describing what consciousness is. But for the first time in the history of television, we are actually going to, not just to talk about it, but walk the talk. And from individually ourselves, we are going to attempt to really see what's going on here on the show and really feel what's going on. So please feel free, if you bump up against something, please speak up. It's all about reality. This is a reality TV show. Nothing that we do here is scripted, okay? So that's a little bit about the show. Anybody on the cast has anything to add to that? Dido?
Sounds like yes.
Yes.
Sounds amazing. Yes.
Okay.
You're conscious.
All right, fantastic.
Living it.
So let's begin with, I usually start with a key question, and my key question is for Susan, our guest today. How unrealistic people are during the holiday season trying to avoid what this show is about, which is reality?
That's a great question, Steve. And I think how our society has evolved is we've just become so desensitized and overstimulated by technology between smartphones, cell phones, computers, televisions. If you look at an average television show, the number of commercials on each commercial break, there's about 10 commercials every commercial break. The visual stimulation, the auditory stimulation.
Every 8 minutes, by the way.
Every 8 minutes, thank you. And we become so overstimulated, and then I feel we become desensitized that it takes our brains so long to process things that after a period of time, I think many of us just check out because we can't process everything that's coming at us all at once. And I think consequently our society has just kind of numbed itself out to certain things, and we've gotten into a routine. Many times, many of us feel like drones. And this time of year, I think that brings up a different sense of emotions with the holiday season.
And what do you feel in terms of people's expectations? Like I'm noticing, and I used to do this before I was conscious and awake, is, for example, to give you a perfect example, if at any time during those years, I didn't have money to buy presents, I would go borrow money. Because it was not acceptable to me that I couldn't buy presents. So I would spend money that I didn't have, sometimes as much as $5,000, to make sure that everybody I loved had a present. What do you think about that? Do people do this? Is it just only me?
I think no. I think many of us do, and I wish I would have been on your Christmas list. but I think many of us do. I think many of us have fallen into the keeping up with the Joneses, where we have to have this, we have to be there, we have to do this. And I think we've fallen into that trap, and consequently, look at the economic situation we're in. We've tried to keep up too much with and living beyond our means. And I think many of us the last few years have learned to back off of that. And I hope there's more people out there that have become more conscious, if you will, of it's not about the stuff. We sometimes fall into that trap about the stuff, but it's really not about the stuff in the end. That it's really just about spending time together. We were put here to enjoy life and enjoy the experience of life and be happy and healthy. Without all the stuff, we're really still ourselves. And many of us hide behind the stuff.
Right. All right. So James, do you feel that people have no control? A lot of people have no control during the holidays in terms of how they eat and how much they eat.
Well, I don't know if they have no control. I think we all have control. It's a matter of exercising the control. From my perspective, what happens with the holidays, certainly it triggers emotions, and one of the reasons it triggers emotions is the constant, maybe come back to what Susan said about the bombardment of media, is suddenly we have everywhere the neon lights and the advertisement for buying things and the things we're supposed to do at Christmas and the expectations. So perhaps things that trigger us, emotions or pain that we've been able to put away or have some discipline around all year long is in our face. And as I say, what you focus on shows up in your life. Further, I think what happens is there's permission to sort of be neglectful of ourselves or to eat too much or to allow those emotions to get the best of us. As you say, in the second part of the show, we'll talk about some ways to mitigate those emotions. But I think what the holidays does is surface some things that perhaps we need to work through all year long.
Okay. So one of the examples to that would be like if you're at a party at Christmas time and people go have a plate and then they go back for the second and they go back for the third because everybody else is doing it, and then all of a sudden that becomes the norm and okay. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, in groups we can all say, hey, listen, come January 1st, we're not going to do this. So we give ourselves permission to be a little bit abusive to ourselves, perhaps because we're feeling down, right? And we're social creatures. We do things in packs. If other people do it, we feel okay and we feel justified, right? But really what the food is or alcohol is, it's a way to try to dull some pains that show up along the holidays, because these triggers emotions, but emotions are not just driven on the holidays, they're driven all year long. Perhaps we avoid them other ways all year long. During the holidays, we have to make a choice to either face them or drown them out with food or drink or dancing or spending money.
Right, got it. All right, so Susan, what do you think? You are a registered nutritionist, right?
Registered dietitian.
So you have, and you've been doing this how long?
27 years.
27 years. All right. So I go to a party at Christmas time, and I really don't pay attention. I just lose myself.
Get into the spirit, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. But it's really not good for me. It's really bad for me. like after I have my third plate, I feel like a beached whale, and I don't even want to move.
Well, one of the things that I think is very important to back up with and reiterate what James was saying is that this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, many of us experience, we have less daylight. So many of us experience a more heightened sense of emotion, and I truly believe that's due to less daylight and also due to less sunshine. And there's conditions like seasonal affective disorder, which can lead to depression, because many people get depressed this time of year because of less daylight, the holiday pressures, and that can also lead to overeating. But getting back to your point, the celebration, we've also woven eating and drinking into just about everything social we do. So there's things that, to be conscious, sure, we want to enjoy getting together and hopefully enjoy the holidays, but there's also reasons that people do get the stress and blues, and some of that is less daylight. But there's also ways that you can you can somewhat arm yourself, if you will, with foods. If you go to a party and you're trying to watch your weight and you're trying to watch what you eat, not everybody does, and not everybody does all the time, but there's things that you can bring or you can be conscious about before you clear the table for round 2 or 3. And it's okay to eat. But let's say, for example, bring a dish that you know is going to have some protein and or some vegetables and fruits. It's not going to be loaded with sugar, which can give you that roller coaster. If you're going to be drinking alcohol, I suggest drink a glass of water before you start drinking alcohol or eating. So there are ways that you can gear yourself up. And also, look at the big picture, Steve. You know, it's one day, or maybe you go to a few parties. Enjoy it, and you know, when you can get off that couch again, enjoy it and put the big picture in perspective, that it's one day, it's not your whole life. You have the rest of your life to get back on track.
Yeah, but you see, this is true, but this is really part of the solution, which we're going to be talking about in the next segment. But what I'm curious about is, you know, have anybody noticed that the networks actually waited before until, after Thanksgiving to start the commercials? Have you noticed that they're no longer waiting until then?
Yeah, I mean, goodness.
That the time frame is moving up further and further before Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
So there's nobody's honoring in the media anymore that, you know, we don't. So what's going to happen next is 2 months before Christmas, we're going to be already ready to celebrate Christmas and hearing all this stuff. I mean, what does this do to people? I mean, yes, Christmas...
I have to interrupt a little bit here, and because I'm listening to what you're talking about regarding the commercials and things, but also they seem to be putting decorations up and everything up way before Thanksgiving. So we're kind of celebrating way before Thanksgiving, then we have Thanksgiving, and then we kind of have Christmas. And I've often thought, is this just an excuse, obviously, to entice people to have fun, but also mostly to eat? And because they know we all have that weak spot of wanting to eat and wanting to celebrate, but it just seems to get earlier and earlier and earlier, and the commercials are getting longer and longer and longer, and it's just getting so impossible of how to handle it.
Right, and what is the issue and the problem with that? And what's the environment that creates for people? And I understand that people are responsible for their own reality, and nobody's putting the gun against your head to go ahead and start eating 2 months before Christmas, like the way you eat on Christmas Day. However, this is all. Don't you agree that this is all kind of programming? I mean, it's all subconscious programming, conscious programming.
If I can just jump in here
Absolutely.
for a moment, since my area of expertise is the subconscious mind, and I work with hundreds of clients specifically on weight issues and our conditioning. There are a lot of different factors that have been mentioned. One of them is our social conditioning. And we also talked about emotional triggers, which are deeply subconscious. And those triggers can go off from a number of different factors, including the stimulus that we see around us, whether it's you know, the holiday advertising and getting excited about the holidays. There's also our own internal reference points that trigger us. And it could be old patterns of eating a lot, big meals when you have holiday functions and family functions, and a lot of people have childhood associations that are very positive with big meals and lots of food and cookies and goodies and all of that stuff. And we're living in a very fast-paced society. We're oftentimes not honoring our needs. And a lot of people are walking around pretty unhappy. Now, put them in a situation where you have an excuse to be happy. We're supposed to celebrate. We're supposed to be happy. So it's easy then to fall into old patterns and allow ourselves to kind of get swept into some of those old behaviors. So there's so many different dynamics that are going on. And yes, our society unfortunately does, I think, promote the holidays earlier. Maybe to some degree for food, but certainly also to get people spending more money. Unfortunately, when you have a lot of triggers that are associated with the holidays and eating a lot of food and being, you know, making unhealthy choices, now we've got a couple extra months there that we're dealing with that, and not just, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day, or New Year's also.
Great, thanks, Alicia. So, Nina, do you think that the media does this? I mean, do they know that the majority of human beings are going to be? Nina, are you there?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Do you think the media knows that we are easy, like easy fish?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why they do it, because they know that we're all in a very vulnerable place. And when it comes to holidays, of whether we've got family or we haven't got family, our traditions we're used to, which Alicia just says, we're used to eating all this food and we're used to doing all what we do. But also when we're younger, we do have more exercise. We run more, we play more, we do more. And I think this is also the children now are getting into a place where they don't have that exercise. So that's why we have this obesity problem out there with our younger generation. It's going across the board, actually. But it's definitely the advertisers are definitely, that's why they advertise. That's why they do what they do, because they know we're vulnerable out there. And oh, we see something new, something good, and okay, it's Christmas time, it doesn't matter. But it matters all the time. It matters 12 months of the year, and I think people always want an excuse to eat.
All right, so here's another thing that I also noticed, that people get really, really busy. Like there's this phenomenon of the Black Friday, right? Which this, I kind of see that it's the way we start the craziness. Black Friday is the kickoff for the craziness for the holidays, and then people get so busy, everybody's so distracted, and you know, I used to wait until the last day, or you know, as long as I could wait. Before I went shopping, and the mood and the how fast people are moving and how they're not paying attention to anything. People are running into each other. It's like it's a crazy atmosphere. What is that about?
You're absolutely right, Stephen. You asked about advertising. They're bringing on this Computer Monday, this Tech Tuesday, this Black Friday. This is all advertising to get us motivated, to get us into buying all this stuff or eating all this stuff. That's the whole trend out there, and it's up to us as individuals of being conscious of controlling ourselves and what do we really want.
I have never participated in a Black Friday event. Have you, Susan?
No,
I haven't.
Has anybody?
Friday.
No.
Okay.
No.
How about you, James?
Every day is Black Friday for me, Steve. So, you know, Steve, if I can touch on the things we're talking about, it's interesting about the holidays specifically, right? That's where a lot of the focus is of this discussion.
Right.
And the holidays, like many aspects of our life, are pretty predictable. We know they're coming in advance, yet we're conditioned, or by virtue of the story we tell ourselves, that they're coming, but yet with a little bit of planning, as such is in all of our lives, we can mitigate a lot of the chaos, and we do become subject to the advertising and the bombardment, just as Susan was saying earlier, because of the mass quantity of information that we're taking in, and what is then landing in the subconscious, and maybe there's guilt or experiences from our youth that sort of perpetuate it. But, you know, we do it to ourselves, and I don't know that we'll ever do anything to recondition the advertisers. Hey, this is business. They're trying to get the economy back going, maybe preying on those that are weak, but that also can be mitigated by some support groups like what you're doing here with the Conscious View. So, you know, I think the outside forces are always going to be the outside forces. It starts with us getting a grip on ourselves and having a support group and systems like we have here on this program to strengthen ourselves year-round.
I agree.
Being aware of it, being aware of what we're eating, what we're doing, and being conscious of who we are, of what we want to be. Maybe some people just don't mind being overweight, you know, it's just some people don't care, but being conscious of what you want. I think this is what we want to do.
And how many of us can say in this day and age that we are actually doing just one thing at a time anymore? We're usually doing two things at a time. It's eating and watching TV, or eating and talking, or driving and eating, or
driving and putting your makeup on.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Maybe you do, Steve. But how many of us are just consciously doing one thing anymore? Because we multitask so often. And Alicia raises a very, very important point of like the subconscious switch, if you will. And that is so true, that so many of us, when there's certain triggers that just trigger the subconscious behaviors, and like James was saying, that we experienced maybe as children, that we kind of get back into that pattern around the holidays, especially around our families and things like that, and certain situations that are familiar. It's fascinating.
So how much of any of this conversation really then has to do with living in the moment versus living from the past or living from the future?
It's a great point, because so much of what we do now is based on what we used to do. So
Right.
to be able to break those habits, that takes time, that takes effort. And a person has to be ready and willing to do that. And I come across people that really are, but it's baby steps. It's baby steps. But some people get to a point in their life where they really just say, whether it's an event of a health situation or a family member or a loved one that has something happen, or a work situation, that's when it's time for them to trigger a change.
All right. So I don't have any statistics about, maybe Alicia can help me with this. I don't have any statistics about how many, how people taking their lives during the holidays is different from any other time. But I'm venturous to say that it's probably higher.
I don't have any statistics either, Steve. What I do know is that this time of the year does trigger a lot of unresolved emotions, whether they're positive or negative. And this is definitely, it's a difficult time for a lot of people, especially when they've lost a loved one, or now with so many people losing their jobs and things like that, there's a lot of pressure in people's lives. I mentioned earlier, it's a different world. It's very fast paced. We all kind of reference the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of multitasking. There's a lot of people that are unconsciously going through life, getting sucked into the drama of this time of the year. And it's going to affect everybody in a different way, which is why it's so incredibly important to slow down and really assess your priorities. Because, yeah, it does take time to resolve some of our old habits and our old behaviors that are not so healthy. But if we keep going 110 miles an hour, eventually we're going to crash into something. So, although I don't know what the statistics are, I would take an educated guess that it may be a bit higher this time of the year, just because of all of the factors involved.
Okay. Well, you kind of taken us into the last segment, which is really about, let's see if we can help our viewers, including ourselves. How do we get through these times, and what are some of the things that any one of you on the cast or our guest have used in the past that has worked? And I'm really only interested anymore in my life what works. I'm no longer interested in what doesn't work, and I used to be.
Mm-hmm. There's a variety of things that all of us can do, and I'm sure all of us here have suggestions. But there's nutrition. There's proven things we can do nutritionally, exercise, stress management. There's certain foods that you can consume that can help improve your mood and improve brain health. Those have been documented. Omega-3 fatty acids. Vitamin D is also very important. That's been associated with brain health as well as many other health conditions. Good sources of both, actually, are fatty fish, such as salmon and tuna and mackerel. Vitamin D, many foods are fortified with vitamin D. Good nutrition is essential for maintaining our health, especially our mental health. B vitamins. And let me emphasize that I believe supplements are important. They're not a substitute. There are still compounds that cannot be replicated in pill form, as of this day anyway. Dark green leafy vegetables, B vitamins, or dark green leafy vegetables contain magnesium. B vitamins, which are found in grains such as quinoa, rice, oats, wheat, barley. Make sure that you have some of those on a regular basis. Eating what I call the trilogy of protein, fat, and carbohydrate when you can.
Susan, you're making me feel very hungry.
Good.
All this lovely sort of energy stuff and all this stuff is good.
Well, Nina, you go to tons of parties, yeah? Not just during Christmas, but every day.
I know I'm on one big merry-go-round in Hollywood here. Well, I'm very disciplined. I always have been, but I fortunately come from a very slender family, so I do have some genes in there that sort of attacked and stayed with me, so I've been very fortunate. But yes, I definitely control my drinking. Before I would drink because we had chauffeurs and we had different people to take us around. Now I'm a driver myself, so I just have one drink, and I stick to that one drink because the police can get you, so I'm very much aware, not only for my body, but also for my mental health. I have a policeman stopping me. But I think something that, a lot of lonely people out there, and I wrote a book on volunteering, and I think Christmas time, or even any time, but Christmas time, start to go down to some of these missions, or start to go and see some of these people that really don't have anything, and help in that direction, because that really can make you feel really, really good if you're having the blues and you're feeling sorry for yourself, because having the blues is feeling sorry for yourself, or something's happened in the family, or something's happened with friends, or you don't have any friends. So go out and do something where it's going to make you feel good, and it's going to make somebody else really feel good. And I think that might be another way. Cell phones are great. Skype is excellent for calling people and getting in contact. I think there's a lot of positive stuff out there. I know there's negative stuff, but there's a lot of positive stuff we can really delve into and make use of it, and not feel so sorry for ourselves, and start feeling, good and living consciously of whom we are.
Absolutely.
Can I jump in and say a few things?
Please do.
One of the ways to prevent ourselves from overdoing is not accept those FedEx fruitcakes you send to all of us each year. The Hungarian goulash. Send those back. Second, as Susan talked about, sort of the great options we have, as has Ninon. One of the things I think is important for those people that find themselves sort of captured by the emotion of what could happen here this holiday season is to think of a small series of victories. Sometimes we look at this as an enormous mountain to climb, and perhaps it's as simple as questioning ourselves as to small things we could do differently to build some momentum. That could range from, one year I just consciously made a choice that I wasn't going to burden myself with all these holiday cards I felt I had to send out. When I didn't do it, it didn't really matter. I'm not sure anybody even noticed, and it took a lot of pressure off of me. Now, I do it differently now. But even if it's setting, hey, I'm going to do a holiday walk with a good friend, or I'm going to time myself for an hour at this party and spread out my drinks, and then see those victories, those have become reinforcing and sort of self-fulfilling prophecies that we can build on each day, and recognize that the power of choice is upon us, but it's the small things that make the big difference.
Okay.
Very well said, because that
Excellent.
is definitely, convert your mind somewhere else.
Yeah. All right, well, we have a caller, so I just want to mention it on the air, too, that if you want to call in, the lines are open right now at 720-222-0158. So welcome to the show. Please just tell us your first name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. What's your question for the cast or for our guest?
Okay, every year I get prepared for the holidays, and I promise myself I won't overeat and overdrink, and then I get around my family, and it all goes away. And I need to figure out this year how to not let that happen.
Did you hear that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want to take the response?
I'll take some of it, and I'm sure others would like to
Did
chime
you guys
in
hear
as well.
that? Because it's a...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's Cindy, right? Lindsay. Great question. And being around your family can be tough, and as we've talked about, trigger some emotions. But arm yourself. I mean, you're smart enough to think ahead of time this year. For example, if eating a big meal and going back for seconds and thirds is part of the whole scenario, arm yourself. Drink some water. Bring some of your own food. Understand that the buttons of the family, if you will, do get pushed, because that's very common. And if you've been around that situation enough, that's something to prepare yourself for. Bring certain foods that you know that will help you maintain what you're going to be consuming. Those are a few ideas.
Anybody on the cast?
I'd be happy to add to that. This is a common thing that I work with, not just on the holidays, but all throughout the year. Because, again, and we did touch on this, we do have very deep-rooted emotional subconscious triggers, especially with family, and most definitely during the holidays. And what a lot of it comes down to is what's going on inside in terms of your self-esteem, your level of self-confidence. Certainly when we're feeling very confident and assertive and we have a healthy, harmonious relationship with our loved ones, they're less likely to sway us to do things that make us feel guilty or unhappy afterwards. That's one possibility. So I kind of want to swing back to the other one, which I think may be more of the case here, and that is that we sometimes use that, we talked about getting kind of sucked into the excitement and allowing ourselves to be, or to use it as an excuse. And certainly I think we all can remember a time in our lives where we said we weren't going to do something, but then when we got there, we were just so wrapped up in the emotion of the experience that we decided to do it anyway, and then we beat ourselves up afterwards. So that's a negative form of reinforcement. What's more appropriate and a great way to begin to reprogram yourself to handle this with a better sense of empowerment is to be aware of how you're feeling in that moment. So when you begin to sense that you're tempted or you're ready to give in, or you're feeling an emotion being triggered by someone or something, the first step is awareness of it, because that gives you the ability to make a conscious choice. Once you recognize that you're triggered, now you can kind of project what are the potential outcomes given these different choices. So one is you can give in to the temptation. Will it make you feel worse? Because you're going to beat yourself up, you're going to feel guilty, you know that you're going to feel horrible for the next 12 to 24 hours. And that right there can actually empower you to choose the other option, which is the feeling that you get when you feel proud of yourself, especially when you're at home, later after the fact, and you're like, wow, I did it different this time and I'm really proud of myself. So those are just little tiny things that are actually very powerful and very impactful in terms of changing those old patterns.
Great, thank you, Alicia. We have another caller. Welcome to the show. What is your first name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Erica. I'm calling from Arvada.
Hi, Erica. Welcome from Arvada. And what is your question for the cast or for our guest?
Yes, I was wondering if you knew any healthy substitutes, particularly for baking, but really for anything like applesauce for oil or flaxseed and water for eggs, along those lines.
So you're looking for, Erica, you're looking for substitutes for which foods?
Just in general, I've had a friend recommend to me to use applesauce instead of oil, and that's worked really well for me, or flaxseed and water instead of an egg. So I just was wondering if you had any healthy alternatives that could be substituted.
Sure. The fruit purees like the applesauce, prunes, also pureed prunes, add moisture, they add some fiber, and they add some texture. Pureed beans. In the darker recipes like brownies and things like that, some recipes can have black beans substituted.
Oh, perfect. So the black beans instead of oil?
Yes, I would still recommend using a little bit of fat because especially here in this climate, we need a little bit of fat and moisture. So I would say reduce the fat by, maybe start by reducing it by about 1/3, and then add some beans and fruit puree and things like that. You have to play with it a little bit, especially at this altitude and in the dryness.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
All right, so I wanted to say something. Alicia covered this really well, but I just wanted to add something to what Alicia described and what she helped us with is simply just asking ourselves the question when we are triggered by somebody or something during the holidays is what I'm about to say or do, is that in my best and highest interest? Because when we ask that question, just from my own personal experience, we are directly connected to the magnificent human being that we are. And the answer will be absolutely the right answer, no doubt. What do you think?
I think that's a great point. And I know Alicia reiterated this as well. Kind of think about what you're going to say or do before you say or do it. And in some situations, I personally think walking away is the best bet. I think we can all relate to that. Sometimes it's better just to walk away, even though we really feel we need to say something or react. Sometimes that may be a little bit of a trap sometimes in certain situations. But I think you bring out a good point. Oh, go ahead.
I also think that sometimes we go to say something, and if we think about it and say, would I like that same thing said to me, and how would my reaction be?
Exactly.
So sometimes we say things to people and we don't think that, well, if that was said to me or done to me, would I like it, or would I like it said that way? Because it's really, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, with the tone of voice, the meaning, the smile, the look, the whole bit. You can have one sentence meaning 10 different things the way you say it. So I think you have to think a little bit of the reaction of, would I like it? Oh, no, I wouldn't like someone to ask me that or do that to me, so why would they like it?
Yeah, well said.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Steve, let me ask, because one of the things you asked about is real-time experience. As I listen to this, and I think these points are brilliant, and I can think of, all of us look through the lens of self-interest in terms of how could these key points and antidotes help all of us, because all of us need help, right? Nobody's got this thing mastered. One of the things I have found over time is I can ask and answer myself a question, before I hit the speed dial for Domino's, is this a good thing for me? And I might say no and hit it anyway. So at least I'm acknowledging that I'm making a choice. But what has helped me more often than not, maybe it goes back to Lindsay's thought about around the family, is the buddy system. Somebody I talk through and say, listen, we're going to be at this dinner together. You're going to be there. This is my situation. Can you help me? Even if you look over me, nudge me, put your arm around my shoulder, walk me to the next room, or let some people know. Because fighting that battle on our own amongst other people who don't know what we're going through is an even harder battle. It's a sign of strength to ask for help. So maybe there's somebody in our sphere of influence who could sort of be our accountability buddy, not to make us feel bad, but just to give us strength to carry forward.
Yeah, and if we're honest with ourselves, we'll know what we need. If we're really, truly honest, we'll know if we need that extra support. And in some cases, people do need to seek out the help of a professional, whether it be a coach or, I work with a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of other hypnotherapists out there that work on resolving some of the deeper rooted stuff. A lot of it we can do on our own, and we can learn techniques that are very empowering to change our own conditioning. But again, it all comes back to being very honest with yourself and really checking in with yourself to see what is it that I need and what's going to work for me.
Yeah, and I thank you. And I wanted to speak to financial responsibility as well. From my own experience, especially right now that things can be difficult for a lot of people right now. And what I mean by that is it's really not, and I know this is easy to say, but I really mean it, it's not about the presents. This entire holiday season is not about the presents and how expensive they are. It's about love, right? And it doesn't have to be in a form of a present.
Well, and like James mentioned earlier, taking a walk with a friend. How precious is that? How valuable is that? And how relaxing of an experience is that? Just to get together with friends, or Skyping, like Ninan mentioned. Things like that. It's the simple things.
It's the simple things that don't cost any money, and that takes me back to my childhood, that we would make my sister and I would make my mother the Christmas cards, or we'd make our brother a Christmas card. And it was all cut out of paper, and the glue was made out of water and flour, and it was all done. It didn't cost anything. But the response when you gave that, especially to Mum, was the most amazing. And you don't have to, and you're absolutely right, Steve. It's not the price of something, it's where it's coming from. It's the meaning of it, of where it's coming from. And the smallest things and the most inexpensive things can truly sometimes be the best.
Absolutely. So how could we also help some people this holiday season that are alone, don't necessarily have direct family, and I think those are the toughest times for people when they all by themselves, and they see that everybody else is getting together, families are getting together, because that's what the season is all about. How can we help those people?
I think Ninan brought up a very good point. go do some volunteer work. Go to a soup kitchen. Maybe go to a church or a synagogue or other places where there are people that will be accepting and where people gather together.
Yeah.
And be around other people, because as down as many of us can get, there's always someone who's got it a bit worse than we do.
I think, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of your own skin. But it's very easy for all of us to say, go out there and do it all, and I said it myself, but to pluck that courage up, just to, everybody in this world, I always say we come in with one breath, we leave with one breath, and it's what we do in between. And there's some people that just find it so hard to sort of get themselves together and actually walk into a room or walk into any place. And I think just to give them that they're just as important as anybody else out there, even if you are alone. You really are not alone, because there is so much to do out there that you can help other people and fill bags up for Christmas and serve a lunch for Christmas, or go and see the kids at an orphanage and just play with them, or go to an old age home where the people there are lonely too. They might have lots of people around them, but they're lonely. So I think just to get up there and bundle yourself up and just go out and do it and have fun.
Right. Excellent. Excellent feedback, Minan. Thank you. What about, let's talk a little bit about people that have some grieving to do. People that had somebody in their family that passed away recently, or a relationship that broke up. I think that these times are more difficult for those people. What would we recommend for them? How would we help them?
Surround yourself by people.
Yeah.
I think get yourself involved with people. Friends, not friends, just get yourself out. And to feel sorry for you. I lost my husband, my father, and my mother all within 3 months, and it was tough. It wasn't Christmas time, so I know how hard that can be. But I think just to sort of seek out your friends and just I don't know. You can't feel sorry for yourself. If that's a hard thing, that's very, very tough, because that's a personal feeling for somebody, and that's hard. But try to get out.
Yeah, well, and you have to acknowledge and honor how you're feeling. It's not healthy to try to avoid what you're feeling, but it's also not healthy to go the opposite end of the spectrum and dwell on it. We can easily get locked into the pattern of grief and feeling negative and feeling like a victim. So a good way to break out of that is to go and exercise, go out for a walk, surround yourself with people that make you feel good, that support you, that help you to take your mind off of things in a healthy way. The one thing that I would highly suggest not to do is to self-medicate with excessive quantities of alcohol or TV, that oftentimes creates more negativity and more problems in the long run. So get help if you need it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if you're really struggling, there are people out there that will listen. There are people that can be there to support you.
Yeah, great.
Steve, can I add something I think would be healthy? Because I was from practical experience and personal experience, and Alicia and Susan and Nina are touching their own way. I think it's very true that we need to express the griefs, not let the toxicity build up in our system, find a vehicle, whether that's people or journaling, but perhaps it's taking an action that we've been hesitant to do, and maybe that's exercise or watching our food or doing some volunteer work. And the phrase "in honor of" has seemed to be effective for people. It was for me. That maybe when I was hesitant to go into that soup kitchen, I don't know anybody, I'm scared to go into that church, when I did it in honor of my father, in memory of my mother, it gave me strength because I was doing it for them, and it sort of gave me the energy to push forward. So that may be something that helps people push ahead.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah. I also remember at a time of my life when I was in a great relationship and then we broke up, and Christmas time came around, and how I was dealing with it, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, not just me, is I slept a lot. Like how I was dealing with it is that I decided not to recognize the world out there, and I would just go to sleep like a bear. And I woke up on a Tuesday, and I looked at my calendar, or looked at my computer, and I went like, it's only Tuesday? I'm not interested, to show up until Friday. And I went back to sleep. I went back to sleep. So
Hi, Gabriel.
yeah. Heidi. Yeah. So can we? Is that do you feel?
Do a demonstration for us.
Yeah. Well, not right now. But do you think that is that a natural process or a way to deal with a loss, or is there something that we need to say on the air here to help people if that's what they're doing, if they just sleeping their weeks away, trying to ignore life?
Well, that is a coping mechanism, and like I said, it really comes back to you have to acknowledge what's going on. You have to acknowledge how you're feeling, and oftentimes people are very resistant to change. And now change was just basically thrown at you, and you weren't really given the opportunity to prepare for it. It's the same, whether you lose someone who leaves this planet, or you lose someone because they decided to move on. A loss is a loss, and you're going to handle it in the way that is within your current conditioning. A lot of the things that we've already talked about, I think, are important to, they apply to this as well, basically. You've got to really reevaluate your life, and you have to be open to the future, that it can be good. And if you don't feel like it can be good and you're in a deep depression, then it's very important to get help.
Got it.
And one of the things that I know that I personally have learned and tried to help people with is that it's important to grieve, whether it's the loss of a loved one or a relationship ending or a job ending. Give yourself a reasonable amount of time. But then, you know what? Life's really short. That loved one wouldn't want you to dwell and wallow in that sorrow. I give myself 10 or 15 minutes a day of negativity, and that's all I allow myself to do, because I've got the rest of my life to live, and I have had to reprogram my brain, and I try to help other people do that, to be able to realize that, every day I wake up, it's a new day. The slate starts over, and you give yourself a little bit of time, 10 or 15 minutes, okay, negativity time's over, start giving yourself positive self-talk. That takes time to reprogram yourself. And with all the negative stuff that we are bombarded with, it's really hard to stay positive, but it can be done. Another thing that you can do anytime, anywhere, this sounds kind of crazy, is smile. The simple act of smiling, it truly does, Steve. It releases chemicals in your body.
And breathing.
And it's relaxing. Mm-hmm. And you can do that anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
I think what Steve went through, I think all of us need to have sometimes a little quiet moment and to sort of, get over, especially if you've been in love or you're a loved one or whatever the case is. I think you definitely need that quiet time to relax and to sort of, I guess, feel sorry for yourself or whatever your feelings are, but not to take it to the extent. And I think, yes, to definitely try to get up there and, they're probably feeling the same way, and I think it's just to sort of try to move through it a little bit yourself, so you can go through that feeling, but don't delve, and don't start, as Alicia said, to drink or to start taking pills and doing all that. No, it's still a world out there, and every day is a day to live, and yesterday is gone, the moment is now, tomorrow we don't know. So, as Susan said, live your day, enjoy your day, because that's really what it is. Live your day and enjoy it. But still take those moments.
All right, so I know that I've heard this, and I don't know who to give credit to, but if anybody knows, let me know. But they say that our bodies are our temple. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So if that's true, right. And I believe that's true.
Yeah.
And
yes.
as you can tell, I'm not exactly in shape. And but I
we're getting there, Steve. Steve, we're getting there.
But I have been working on it, and consciously, and this is an interesting subject for me because it's like I don't beat myself up every day that I'm 25 pounds overweight, but I know that I would feel much better because I remember when I was 175 how much better I felt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every day. Mm-hmm. And so, I'd like to get there soon. It's been very challenging for me.
It's about time of the year to start. Starting away from all that food. I don't think I've ever had a plate great, but I'm just a little person anyway, so I couldn't handle it. But I think just, that willpower, take a glass of water. Somebody said drink a glass of water.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd like to acknowledge Ninon, actually, because Ninon was just here last week in Denver. And, she talked about this earlier on the show. But Friday, she flew in Friday for our kickoff show and for the second season. And we went to a restaurant to just have a drink. And we both got a glass of wine. And then later on, the waiter came up and said, well, guess what? It's 2 for 1. And so they brought us 2 more glasses of wine. Oh. And I want to acknowledge Ninon because what she said is absolutely true. She did not drink the second wine. I didn't drink it either. And I asked her, I said, well,
you took a little swig, come on.
Well, I said, well, what am I supposed to do with this beautiful glass of wine? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to leave it here? And she says, yes, just leave it here.
Doesn't matter.
So,
right, just because it's there doesn't mean it has to be consumed, and we don't have to be the members of that.
Incredible discipline. So I wanted to acknowledge Ninon to have incredible discipline.
Thank you so much, Steve. Well, Steve, you're also, you're getting there. We're all behind you, and we're all helping you, and we'll all help you do what you need to do, but this is not the right time of the year to start.
Allow yourself a little slower. But the slow, and you and I have talked about this too, Steve, the longer and slower it takes for weight loss, the longer you're likely to keep it off. Because the majority of diets out there really don't work. Michael Danziger of, I believe it was Tufts University, studied over 12,000 participants in a number of different diets, and only 6% of them kept their weight off. So you've got to do what works really best for you in your lifestyle.
Okay.
You are what you eat.
I have to say something.
Hang on, Alicia, hang on first. Alicia, hang on. Alicia.
Yeah. There we go, Steve.
Guys, hang on for a second. We have one more caller. Let's take one more caller, and then I'll get back with you, Alicia. Don't forget what you were going to say.
It's avoiding Steve. He was ducking you.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. Please let us know what your first name is and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hello.
Could we have your first name, please?
Yeah, it's Claudia.
Claudia, welcome to the show. And what's your question for the cast or for our guest?
Yes, I was wondering, I'm pre-diabetic, and so I really try to watch the sugar intake and everything over the holidays. So I was wondering, is there and I don't like to use sugar substitutes, is there something good to do for the holidays for that? What's a good alternative?
I have a great product for that. It's called, sorry Steve, but it's called Visalis. Visalis Body by Vi 90-day challenge. It's great for people that have diabetes. Incredible. You can go to my website and check it out, obesityhotline.com.
There's also other foods that you can consume, and shoot for foods that are the complex carbs. Your whole grains, fruits and vegetables. Watch the simple sugars, because simple sugars are going to make your blood sugar spike, and they're going to make your blood sugar go down as fast as it goes up. And if you do consume sweets, have them with a meal. So I would say just watch the sweets.
All right.
Okay, so instead of doing it as a dessert, maybe have just some sugar, like the cranberries with the meal or whatever.
Have it with your meal, and just try to just watch for eating sweets in general. But if you're going to eat them, having them with a meal is going to be better for your blood sugar, and also increasing your activity will help you as well.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling the show. That's all the time we really have for today. I'd like to give many thanks to our viewers as well as our guests, our cast members, our crew, especially John behind the glass. Don't forget to vote for our show and also comment, as well as interact with us on our website at www.livingconsciously.tv. And everybody have a happy holiday season, and I love you all.
Love you too.
Thank you.